Consider the difference between the ingredients of a cake and a cake. Only the cook knows exactly what the ingredients were. However, if the recipient enjoys the cake, then he or she isn't too concerned about the ingredients because she or he is enjoying the cake. However, if the person eating the cake enjoys it so much, he or she might ask for the ingredients. But it's not just the ingredients that matter in making a good cake. It's the mixing of the mixture. It's the preparation. It's the love, that essence of love going into the mixture makes a difference too. Because if you're coming from the place of love and happiness, then the mixing is coming from the place of love and happiness. A big difference between mixing from that place of what I call the open hand and mixing from that place which I call the clenched fist. And us true spiritual practitioners understand divine communion. And in that communion, one is doing the mixture and the mixing. And then there's the oven, the quality of the oven, of course. I've had to get another thermometer because I'm not relying on the inbuilt thermometer. So, look at us, human beings. What a mixture we all are. What a mixture. And we take that mixture here, there, and everywhere. And we offer it to people, and it's not always a good taste that people have of you. You haven't actually become the cake so much as you're still the mixture. There's certain things we have to do when we're mixing a cake up. We have to sieve the flour because of lumps. We don't want lumps. And also it aerates, holding the sieve up high creates a lot of air or more air. I'm afraid a lot of us haven't had our ingredients sieved it out. There's still lots of dross and lots of lumps and knots in our so-called cake. However, millions and billions of people throughout the centuries and present time are trying to improve themselves, trying hard to improve, self-improvement. It just doesn't work. Just as the cake mixture doesn't improve itself. It simply goes in the oven and a miracle happens. A metamorphic event happens where the liquid or the batter changes into a more solid, not too solid of course, full of air, cake, which we can enjoy. And often we decorate that cake to make it more tempting because it can be a bit boring just eating the sponge. Look at all the people that decorate themselves, often with medals, look at me, and diplomas. Reminds me of the Wizard of Oz, where the professor or the wizard says the only thing that you are lacking is you haven't got a diploma. And that was to the scarecrow? You just haven't got a diploma. And once you've got a diploma, there's a transformation. You become happy. Well, the reason why self-improvement doesn't work is because you're going down upon yourself. You're being narcissistic. You're dwelling in your head all the time. You're watching yourself all the time. You're trying to change your behavior. It doesn't change your disposition. And that's what has to change, the disposition. But we need a teacher to tell us that what we're trying to improve upon is imaginary. I can't use the cake analogy anymore, I don't think. I'm trying to bring it in, but I don't think I can. My teacher, Adidar Samraj, said, if you're doing this self-contraction, then you are producing difficulties for yourself. You're producing anxiety, fear, doubt, boredom, discomfort, anguish, unhappiness, basically, due to the self-contraction. Which implies that if you didn't do the self-contraction, you wouldn't be dwelling on yourself, thinking about yourself, considering yourself. You'll be an abundance of joy and happiness and energy. An abundance. Because that is the true state of the body and mind. The body-mind is not the ingredients of fear, anxiety, joy, seeking, wanting to be made happy, boredom, doubt. All of that is the result of the self-contraction. And if we didn't do the self-contraction, then all of that wouldn't come about. It's like the clouds, we forget the sun. Maybe another analogy would be to use gold. When gold first comes out of the ground, it is impure. There's a lot of impurities in it, in the gold nugget. So it has to be fired. It has to go into tremendous heat to be heated and melted. So we have molten gold. And then all the impurities are seen and they fall away by a certain process. So Adidar, my teacher, said simply, turn to the sun, turn to me, and miraculously your body-mind will be purified. Purified of all of that nonsense created by the self-contraction. And then your body-mind will be a beautiful cake, and your hands will act beautifully, and your speech will be easy and effortless. But beware, because when you are living like an open hand, the hands can perform all kinds of tasks, both apparently weak and strong tasks. There's a great energy in the body-mind, so it can sound like an explosion. It's very loud as well as very quiet. There's no constriction on God, Because really, self-contraction is contracting, strangulating the force of God, the energy of God. This contraction, which we all do, but I'm trying to bring that to your attention so that you can see that's what everyone is doing, including yourself. The self-contraction is at the root, and the only way to not do the self-contraction is to fall in love. Fall out of love with the clouds and fall in love with the sun. And every individual needs to find their sun. We all can find the physical sun. Sometimes each day maybe, or not every day. But we know it's there, ready to be refound. Well, it's attention. Stop dwelling on the clouds, and even though you can't see the sun possibly, turn to the sun. And for me, my sun is the spiritual master, Adidar Samraj. He is my sunlight. He wrote a book, Sunlight on the Water. And you know what happens when sunlight goes on the water? Well, the creepy crawlers start coming up. So the water is becoming more bright, if you like, free of the creepy crawlers. And what happens when a blossom blossoms, or a bud blossoms, or a bud opens? It's due to the sun. It's the attraction to the sun. We blossom. Why aren't you blossoming? Because you're dwelling on the results of the self-contraction. As simple as that. You're dwelling on the clouds. Simple as that. We should all be blossoming. Everyone should be blossoming. But how can we blossom? And why aren't we blossoming? Because you're putting your attention onto the wrong place. So if you want that beautiful cake, you have to put your attention on that beautiful cake. You have to turn to the cake. If you want to get out of the room, you've got to turn to the door, turn to the handle. If you want a light off, in this case, because it's on, you go to the switch, or you go to remote control. There's always something we have to do. We can't just rely on grace. Sometimes someone walks in the room and they might do something. You say, oh, I'm so pleased you came because I was just about to do that and you done it for me. Saved me doing it. Saved me getting up from the chair. I bring in every day ordinary moments, because this practice that I practice of already happiness, joy and delight is daily. It's throughout the day, every day. I do fail, and I notice that failure, and that prompts me, it motivates me, it gives me that impetus to continue to practice, to get back on track. There's Adidar on the wall there. He's my saviour, my lover, my great friend. He's the one that's given me all that self-understanding that's required. He's given me all that knowledge if I need to have the knowledge. But what we're talking about, happiness is prior to knowledge. It's prior to making the cake. It's prior to mixing the ingredients together. It's prior to whatever we do in life. If only we find the happiness that we truly are. It's inherent. That word inherent simply means it's already the body-mind's characteristic, trait. It's innate. Just as wetness is to water, happiness, real happiness, is to the body-mind. And that's what there is to realize. It's ever so easy to realize the results of the self-contraction because they're so apparent. But happiness, real true happiness, is a stillness. It's a quality of peace. And from that peace we can be loud. That's the paradox. You have a piece of paper, it's peaceful. There's no sound coming from the piece of paper. As soon as you do this, but the paper is still peaceful. You understanding what I'm saying? The great, well, not necessarily great, but the pianists or musicians, they start off, the true ones, the professionals, ones that play beautifully, they start off sitting quietly. And from that quiet disposition, they bring out all that music, quiet and loud, soft and not so soft, fast and slow notes. They perform initially from this peaceful place, and they don't contract. They're just out there giving. And that's what I'm doing now. This is a gift to the world. Because I have to share. There's nothing for me to do. Once you're there, what's there to do? I share Adidar Samvaj, but you find your own sun and stay with your sun. But you've got to, it's like finding the right oven. If the oven isn't working, you find an oven that is working to bake the cake. If it works for you, then, but the turning away from this works for everybody. You have to turn away from this to that. And then there's just a wonderful, happy life in relationship with everything you do and everyone you meet. It's a joy. That's what Christmas should be about all year long. We should all be like the converted Scrooge. Scrooge was like this, and suddenly an interference came into his body, the spirits, and suddenly he was ecstatic. Ecstatic. Whether he went back to this stupor, I don't know. We don't know. We're possibly made to believe that he remained like the open hand. So it's a great example. Pages of him like a contracted, and then suddenly like a fist, and suddenly a few pages later, ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic. He couldn't wait to share. What's his name? Mr. Sims? One of the film stars. So, join me in living a life of happiness. Join me in living a life of intimacy. Join me in living a life of utter freedom and creation. Join me living like an open hand where you serve one another beautifully, effortlessly. It's a picture of my brother up there. So I can point to it. Up there. He committed suicide. He didn't feel love. We have to feel love. Not necessarily loved, but love. We have to feel that love bliss, that abundance of joy. And our job is to help people be distracted from themselves. So when we walk into a room, they are immediately happy to see you. I have a friend, John, and he often says that. Peter, when I see you, I'm made happy. In that moment, all that's happening is he's forgotten to do this. He's become the open hand. I'm his sunshine, sunbeam. So, you've brought me into your living room. Am I being your sunbeam? And then you can see the beauty. Look at this intimacy here. Look at the look of love. Total self-forgetting, you see. No self-consciousness. Just intimacy. Then one can see the beauty of things. Look at this lovely candle. Looks as if it can be eaten. It was bought for me for my birthday. I forget who bought it. Who gave it to me. I'm going out shortly to a yoga class. I'm going to take some cookies I've made this morning for them. You know what it's like. We offer things to people. If we didn't offer them, would they be as cheerful? Would they be as cheerful to seeing me without the gift as they are when they see the gift? I went into the church yesterday. Outside they were advertising, come in and sing carols with us, have mince pies, and also a hog roast. And there were about 100 people in there. And I said to myself, I think I might have mentioned it to someone, are you here for the hog roast more than Christ? Because of course the church is meant to be the house of God. So it makes you wonder. I reckon it was more about belly cheer than heart cheer. Never mind. That's what awakening up is all about. Waking up from self-indulgence to God-indulgence. Waking up from being self-possessed to being God-possessed. Thank you for listening. Could go on. There's an abundance of energy, an abundance. It doesn't stop except when we do this. It's like a hose pipe. A kink in the hose pipe prevents the water from flowing through. And we don't need to go and fiddle around with the tap or to repair the hose. All we need to do is unkink it, and the water will gladly flow through. So God has to be, what's preventing God from living us must be unkinked. Thank you for listening. Yes, my brother John. He wasn't happy. He was in mental torment. And one morning he took his life. He hung himself. They distressed him for the post lady who found him or could see him. But then it brings in the question, what if? And we can do that throughout our whole lives. What if? What if? What if we didn't do the self-contraction? Can't buy true happiness. True happiness is the giving away, is the sacrificing of the self, small s self. The sacrificing of attention, away from the clouds to the sun. We've got to make that sacrifice. And you become already happy, not made, not happily made. You are already happy. That's our inherent condition.